Hello, and welcome to another Vulpine news. Our tails are bushier, and our spin acknowledged. Unlike, some of those other news channels. So, it's cloudy, but that's to be expected where I am. But it's not raining right now at the moment, so that's fantastic. I get to be outside. And so I'm here to give you a little bit of follow-up sort of discussion on information overload. Now, bit of time travel, timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly involved here. So, in class, we talked about, in our group discussion, things such as net neutrality and open versus closed, with looking at Apple and Google and how they've changed and all of that, and with a bit of a theme running through on information overload. And so we're going to get at a little bit more of that and sort of look at maybe things we do to deal with information overload, because I think that's something to think a bit critically about. So, if you notice, I've got lots of documents behind me, and you might say, Trevor, you've gone off the deep end. Those aren't documents, they're trees and leaves. True, but, for my classmates, they might understand, especially those who were in the 500 class with me. But for everyone else, I suppose I should do a little bit of explanation. So, there's this famous person named Buckland who gets cited a lot, and Buckland wrote about, in an article titled "What is Information?" he wrote about, information, and he said that everything essentially has the potential to be information. Everything. Each individual leaf, the trees, blades of grass, nice ears, my fur, my jacket, my shirt, the camera that I'm recording on, all of that is information, potentially. And they're not going to show up now while I'm blabbing. But if a deer were to wander by, or a coyote, there has been a coyote who likes to run about in that area, but not right now. I'm sort of loud. But, okay, so all of that is information, potentially. It depends on context, it depends on sort of a relationship. And then I presented on in the 500 class on what are documents, using a chapter from a book written by a David Levy, who basically said that documents are they're representative. Sorry, I'm about to send you off to pirates instead of pilots. I do that. So that they're representational things, that documents are talking beings, and they stand in, so that we delegate to documents, and this is Levy takes this via Latour, when there's this nice long article about delegation that Latour writes about, and how you basically, like a door, you delegate to the door the act of keeping a hole in the wall both open and closed, and then there's delegation, and so you delegate to documents the ability to stand in, to speak for. So a passport speaks for someone about their nationality, that yes, I belong to this country and not that one, and that's then you get a visa stamp, or little page put into your passport, and then it says, it speaks for you. It says, yes, this person is allowed to be here. Don't deport them. So passports speak for us. They stand in. And so Levy talks then about documents as being representational. And so he says that means not everything can be a document except when you think about it. Maybe right now the tree is not a document. It's not representing anything. But it could. I could use that tree as a metaphor. I could use it as some way of speaking about something. And now it's become a document. So, if everything then has the potential to be information and documents, information overload is all around us already, right? We're already overloaded because everything around us is information. Potentially. But we don't normally get overloaded. There are some people who do have sort of sensory overload issues. But many people don't, right? So, we look at this and it's not necessarily overwhelming because we don't see this as information normally. We don't see them as documents. And that then is one way in which we can deal with information overload, is ignoring the fact that it's information, just sort of not paying attention. So you say, it's just a tree. Sometimes, Dorelda, a tree is a tree. Leave it alone. And I say, yes, you're right. But what is a tree? Semantics, that's another time entirely. I could go off on a rabbit trail. Ooh, rabbits. I like rabbits. They're tasty. So, then we've got this tree and the back of my head, and hi! I'm just sort of excited to be outside. It's really wonderful to be outside. And, yeah. So that's one way you can deal with information overload, is you just sort of not treat it as information, and then it goes in a different box. You've got your information box, and you're like, news, Facebook, Twitter, and you stuff it, adverts, and you just stuff those in that box. But then you've got, like, trees, right? They go in, plant box, and you say, they're not information to me. I don't have to worry about them. I just can look at them and say, oh, that's pretty. Look at the leaves. They're starting, very, very slightly starting to yellow. So you can then say, yeah, it's not information. You can ignore the fact that it's information and just sort of let it pass by and be in the background. And so that's one way to deal with information overload. Is it effective? And is it really useful, especially when you deal with things that it's really hard to ignore as information, such as Facebook posts and Google Plus posts and YouTube videos and Twitter tweets and blog posts and news sites and all of this other stuff that just comes washing and washing over you. Like, I'm not... No, the waves are... Right? Okay. So is it effective for that? Thoughts? Comments? Go ahead. You can add to the noise. Let the exponential growth of information begin! No? Okay. Whatever. I'll just keep talking. Because apparently I'm good at that. Sometimes, maybe. So, another way to do... Oh, chair. I don't think I've ever sat in that chair, and I have shot arrows from over there. That was fun. I should come here more often. And... well, the deer do show up there. And... oh. Grass. It's been mowed recently, hasn't it? I think I hear cars in the distance and a plane. There's a plane up there somewhere. And, oh, hello camera. Was I talking to you? Oh right, information overload. So another way you can deal with information overload is to sort of flit between information, just back and forth, all around. And you sort of popcorn, goldfish, ADD, distracted kitsune, sort of, ooh, shiny. No, it's not really. Oh, wait, no, there's something shiny over there. Right? And you just sort of go on like that, and you're distracted. And you don't spend a lot of time on each thing. But you're able to go between lots of things. And sure, you might not be able to do multiple things well, but you can juggle them all at once. I can't juggle. You know, unless it's like mental juggling, you know, and I'm juggling imaginary balls, apples, rabbits. Ooh, rabbits. There I go again. So, but, right. So there's that. In other words, another strategy for dealing with information overload is you just sort of go crazy. And you jump around. And I'm over here. And now I'm over here. And now here. And so that's another way to deal with information overload. You're just all over the place, not focusing on one thing very long. And that has its benefits because you don't spend a lot of time on each thing, so there's less chance of being overwhelmed by that thing, right? But you don't focus as much. You're sort of turning off your ability to focus. You go, no, I think everything just... And so in one sense then you can get overloaded if there's too much thrown at you. So it's not necessarily a great strategy. But what's your thoughts? I mean, can it work? Right? Can this flitting about work? Is it a good thing that we're seeing more of this? Right? More of this flitting about as our attention spans sort of diminish, as our desire to focus. Is that a bad thing? Is it a good thing? Is it both? Your thoughts? No? Okay. It's really hard, you know, this time travel thing, to figure out what you're going to say. Yeah. I'll explain later. No, I won't. Spoilers. So, in any case, that's number 2. And, another way you can sort of deal with information overload is to live in a walled garden. I guess the trees could be a wall of sorts, an actual wall. But you sort of then choose an environment. Right? You choose a closed system. You say, I want to be in a closed system because it limits my choices and limits then all the stuff I have to deal with. Right? So walled garden then, sure we may say, it limits user choice. It prevents you from being able to choose. It limits your functionality, right? And we get all along about that. And we also forget it's also a way of dealing with information overload, right? By limiting, by walling out and saying, queens can go through our green glass door, but kings cannot. Books can go through, but librarians cannot. Sorry. Bookies can follow too. Go figure. It's a weird place inside this walled garden, guarded by the green glass door, but anyways, there's a way of dealing with it, because you're keeping out things that whoever made the garden has decided aren't good enough or don't meet whatever criteria they've chosen to have delineate what is in their walled garden and out, will limit then the amounts of information that's spewed forth at you. So that is a way of dealing with information overload. Is it necessarily bad? I mean, if you didn't want all the functionality, if all you want to do, say with a computer, is have some place where you can type a story and do a little bits of research through library websites and scholarly journal portals and, Google occasionally, if that's all you want out of a machine, then you don't necessarily need a lot of functionality. And you can sort of get away with being in a walled garden. So for some people then, that's how they deal with information overload, is they go with a closed system because it doesn't require them to put in as much effort, to put in as much time, as much thought into developing the system to the way they want it to, right? Because with an open system, you've got the sky. It's up there. Really, it's above me. See? Sky. Ooh. And now it's going to fall, and then James Bond will show up, and, crazy stuff. But that's one way. And other ways of dealing with information overload, well, you just sort of drop off the face of whatever it is for a while. That's something I do. I don't necessarily mean to. I realize, just sort of disappearing. It's hard to have relationships with someone who's there and then poof, they're in another time and place, and but it happens, and that's the strategy for dealing with information overload. If there's just so much, you just decide to disappear, to say, oh, well, I've got way too much going on with Facebook, so I just won't go on Facebook for a week, a month, etc. I've done that. Or this forum, or this other forum. There's a community that I want to get reconnected to. The Antalya game. I need to pronunciation and me, they don't get along. No, pronunciation and I don't agree. There we go. That's better grammatically. I'm not good at pronouncing things. Really not. There's too many languages now in my head, and the sounds, and having the knowledge of linguistics, of phonetics and phonology, and it gets all right. Information, and it just sort of goes. But anyways, so what we have is disappearing as another way, right? So there's ignoring as information, right? You see it, but you don't treat it as information. That's one way to deal with information overload. Another way is to just flit about. You lose focus, but so for the cost of focus, you get the ability to sort of jump about and you sort of manage. And another way is a closed system, and another way is to just disappear and you say, that's giving me way too much information, so I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to be present there for a while. 6 months later, you're like, oh look, I've got 1,000 new messages in my DeviantArt inbox. Oops, I didn't really solve my overload, did I? I just sort of put it off. So the disappearing is sort of a really bad strategy. It really doesn't work that much, because what you do is you just sort of postpone, right? So if you're here and then you put it off and then you put it off and now you get here and now, oh no, the Red November's got leaks everywhere and the gnomes are drowning and on fire, and you say, good thing he's back in time to be able to fix all the problems I caused. It's a really fun board game, Red November. You should look it up. It's really hard to win, but it's timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly fun on basically everything going on a gnomish submarine. So there's that, where you basically just put off the problems to the future by disappearing. That's another way to deal with information overload. And there are plenty of other strategies too. And I've been going on for, what's that? It says like 22 minutes or so. So you might get overloaded, and I wanted this to be quick, and 22 minutes is quick for me. I'm going to find a lazy dog to jump over now, and then you can do all your comments and continue this discussion on information overload that we had in class tomorrow, today, yesterday. Time is weird, right? But I'm going to go. I don't see any lazy dogs, but I'll still go jump over something. So, bye! This was insane. I'm making a note here. Needs more foxes. It's hard to understate my imagination. Vulpine news. We say what we must because we can. For the tales of all of us, even the ones who are dead. But there's no sense crying for this master's degree. You just keep on reading till you run out of tea, and the story gets done, and you have a lot of fun with the people who are still sane. I'm not even crazy. I'm being so sincere right now. Even though you took my mind and lost it, and pried up my fingers, and cast this kitsune into the void. As I fell, I laughed because I was so sad for you. Now these little foxes make a beautiful rhyme, and we're out of boxes for traveling through time. So I'm glad I went insane. Think of all the things we gained for the people who are still sane. Go ahead and leave me. I think I'd prefer to go outside. Maybe you'll find someone else to hear you. Maybe the networks. That was a joke, haha, fat chance. Anyway, this tea is great, it's so delicious and warm. Look at me, still rambling when there's reporting to do. When I look out there, it makes me want to hug you. I've papers to write, there are authors I must cite, because of people who are still sane. And believe me, I am still sane. I'm in grad school and I'm still sane. I feel fantastic and I'm still sane. While you're playing, I'll be still sane. And when you've gone, I'll be still sane. Still sane. Still sane.